Hey guys, in this video, I'm going to show you how to master and use dates inside of Workflowy. Now, while they're currently an experimental feature inside of Workflowy, they're pretty much ready to use as they are. So we just need to activate them. I'm going to show you how to do that first. We're going to go to the menu bar to the right-hand corner, open this up and click on Settings. Next, we're going to slide down to the section that is called Experimental Features, and we'll activate dates, if that's not activated for you already. That lets us add dates, search for dates, and date ranges. So this is the format that dates have inside of Workflowy. It is the day, the month, the number of the day, and then the year. So let's move on to the shortcuts for creating dates. So we'll just expand these and show you the different ways that we can actually create dates in Workflowy. So the first one here is month, day, year. Very simple one. So we'll do something like 1/1/21. And you'll notice that as I get close to creating something that looks like a date, Workflowy is going to prompt me with this little widget, and it's going to give me the recommendation for, or the suggestion for what day it thinks I'm trying to input. If that's correct, I would just hit tab, and then it would create a date tag. So as simple as that. The next format that we have is day and then month. So, 1 January, and I don't even have to type the complete month if I don't want to. You'll notice that the year is 2022 because we're currently in 2021 and January 1st is already passed. So what Workflowy is thinking is that we probably don't want to reference a date that is already passed. What we're trying to do is, write down the next January, which would be 2021. If that's not correct, you would just continue and write the year out. And we can also do it the other way around. So we can do month. So January 1, it's going to give us the same result. So these are the really particularly interesting ones to me, at least. These are the ones that use kind of natural language. So you can type something in like today, and it's going to figure out what today is, and that's what it's going to prompt us. You can also type tomorrow, and you can also use yesterday. So pretty simple ways to input dates without having to figure out or even check the calendar. Next, we're going to move on to some more advanced ones. We can also use these different ones such as next week, next month, next year. And something to keep in mind is that these are all based on one specific day. So even, for example, next week, that's maybe in your mind you're thinking about it referencing an entire range, the entire week. For creating dates, at least with these shorthand methods, we're only creating one specific day. So let me just show you what that looks like. So today, just so you have a point of reference, is March the 12th. If I type next week, it's going to count from today, 1 week in the future. That's March 19th. So that's what's happening there. And same deal with next month. Next year, it's starting from today and then counting 1 week in the future, 1 month in the future, 1 year in the future. Next, we also have last. So this lets us go back in time. Last week, last month, last year, same deal. Last week, it's counting back 7 days in time to give us the date. We can also do these, which are a certain number of days ago. So that's, again, in the past. So 3 days ago, 4 days ago, however many days ago. We can also do in X and then the period. So in 3 days, in 2 weeks, in 5 years, those all work perfectly fine. So, in 5 years, there we go. Pretty simple. And then we also have X and then the period from now. So 3 days from now, 2 months from now. Obviously, we're counting in the future, right? So 2 months from now, there we go. Pretty simple. And then ranges. So the way that we create ranges is by putting a date and then space dash space and then whatever the end period for that range is. So for example, we can do something like, I don't know, 1/1/21 dash, and then let's say, let's make a bigger range here. There we go. And again, it's going to give us the suggestion for what it thinks the date period is. And then we just hit tab and we create the range. Now, the reason why you might want to create a range is because once we move into searching for dates, if you search for a day that falls within that range, it's going to return this tagged item as a result. So it is pretty useful. You don't have to actually put all the dates. You can just put a range. And if you search for a day that falls within that range, you'll get that as a result. And you can use these different formats. So you can use, this week dash and then whatever, or any combination basically. So if you start with January 1st dash and then next week, it's going to create that range. So you can use any combination of these that you want to create the range. So now let's move on to these shortcuts for actually searching for dates. Let me just close this quickly. All right. So for a single date, it's basically the same as creating ranges. All those different formats that I showed you work to find a single date. So if I'm going to hit escape on my keyword to quickly jump into a search and type today. I've already created some dates so that we can actually find when we search. So today brings up today, pretty simple. All those natural language, ways to type in dates work just as well. So if I put in, March 12th, also today, that also gives us the same result. Let's say I can also do, old school format. That works as well. So you can search for dates any way you like, using basically any format that we've used previously to create dates. And then for ranges, this is where it gets pretty interesting because so we've seen how to create tags for single days and also tags for ranges. And now we can also search for ranges very simply using these different natural language inputs. So we can search for this week or this month or this year, and it's going to figure out what does this week mean, right? What week are we currently in? When does the month begin? I'm sorry, when does the week begin? Monday to Sunday for this week, and it's going to filter all the items that are tagged for this week. So that's pretty cool. So let me show you what that looks like. We'll do this week, and there we go. So all these items are obviously fall within this week. So that's why we're getting that result. Now this year, got a couple more items there. So that's how we can search for a range. It's going to figure out what all those days are that belong to the range. And it's going to give that as a result. And again, this goes for the other combinations. So we can do things like last week or last month or last year, and those will also work as well. So yeah, basically just that is for using natural language, but we can also search for a range very precisely by using the same system that we use to create a range. So we can do something like I don't know, January 1st dash January 15th, and it's going to pull up all the items that fall within that range, including ranges that fall within that range. So pretty simple. So that's how we would search for single items and also for ranges. Let's move on to the tips. I've got 3 tips. So how could you use these? The most obvious way is obviously if you have a to-do list, you just tag the items when they're due or when you want to be reminded of them, and then you would search for them, right? Pretty simple. But we can combine this with starring searches to make this even easier. So the first one would be to find past due items. This is a little bit more advanced, but it's pretty useful. So what we want to do is we've got another search that we can perform, which is this one right here. It's just dash is : completed. Now what this is doing is searching for items that are not completed, that have not been crossed through or strike through. But once we combine it with a date range, such as we have right here, last month through yesterday, then what we're saying is basically show me all the items from last month up to yesterday that have not been completed and that obviously have a date tag. So if we do that, I'm just going to paste that in here. We've got this item right here. We can modify this search. So let's say, type this here. We'll get rid of this and we'll do something like last week, right? Well, let's say this week. So these are all the items that have not been completed for this week. If I go ahead and complete 2 of these items and I perform that search again this week, there we go. You'll see that we only have one of those items. And if I just get rid of this little dash at the beginning, that lets us perform the opposite of that search, which is what items have been completed for this week. It's those 2 items that I just completed. Right, we can quickly switch back and forth by just getting rid of that little dash at the beginning. So this is a pretty simple way to check what items are past due, basically, because they were tagged to be completed up until yesterday, and they've not been crossed through, so I have not completed them. So once we have a search like this that we want to perform over and over again, instead of having to type it in, we can search for it once. And I'm going to go ahead and modify it so it's this week. Then what we can do is hit the little star icon in the search bar, and that's going to send it to the left-hand sidebar right here. So now whenever we want to perform that search, we would just click this right here, right? If I click it again, it's going to perform that search. Now what's nice about this is because the search is using natural language, we're not putting a specific date, we just put this week, then it's always going to be up to date. Whatever this week means, whenever we perform the search or we open it up from the left-hand sidebar, it's going to be correct. So it's always going to be up to date. So that's one really nice way to do that. And that's what I would recommend you do if you want to use date tags to mark items and then complete them and then figure out which ones you have not completed or which ones are past due. This would be an easy way to do that. You can also find all completed items for this week. This is a little simpler. It's just is : complete this week. So it's similar to the one that we just saw. It just doesn't have the little dash at the beginning. So we're searching for all the completed items that fall within the range of this week. And finally, quickly see this week's items. Simply start this week. So you don't have to type it in every time. You just go this week, do it once, start, and now you've got it right here forever. And it's always going to be up to date. I hope this video has been useful and has given you some ideas about how you can start to incorporate date tags inside of your Workflowy documents. Be sure to let us know in the comments below if you're already using date tags, what are you using them for, or how are you using them? We're always interested to know in what our users are doing inside of Workflowy. And as always, be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so for more Workflowy tips. And I'll see you in the next one.